You know, when you're watching something so totally dysfunctional, it stops being shocking and it just becomes kind of our normal. That's where we're at right now with American leadership. Every week, it's another new low. We have senators sneaking themselves payouts. We have Trump showing off a fake gold like a magician pulling tinsel out of his sleeve. And we have an entire cabinet of people who look like they got their jobs through a casting call. It's getting harder and harder to be rattled by anything in this country, but somehow they found a way. Let's get into it.
What did these senators get in return? Like, what were they giving up? And we keep saying 8 senators. I'm going to say their names. We have 8 senators. Senators Graham, Johnson, Senator Blackburn, Senator Loomis, Senator Haggerty, Senator Hawley, Senator Sullivan, and Senator Tuberville. Let's say their names. Let's make sure the American people know who will get millions of dollars, because each violation will give you $500,000. And so they can claim violation. And when we say violation, that sounds like something went wrong. Let's make sure the American people know these were subpoenas or inquiries by the FBI that were authorized by the courts, that were authorized by grand juries when they were looking into what happened around the January 6th insurrection. And the American people saw that this place was overrun by violent attackers. We were here. We were here. There were 140 law enforcement officers who went to the hospital. 140 police officers went to the hospital, and now we're going to pay senators, these 8 senators that I have called out, we're going to pay them millions of dollars instead of providing any money to the veterans, instead of providing any money to the children, to the families. It is outrageous, and it is horrible.
For a refresher, officers were injured defending the Capitol on January 6th, including my buddy Michael Fanone, who was so severely assaulted by rioters during the January 6th coup while defending the Capitol that he was dragged into the mob and repeatedly tased, causing a heart attack, and then he was beaten with a flagpole. And people died. And now 8 senators snuck in $1 million payout for themselves for being investigated for their possible involvement in the insurrection. And from what I can understand, Representative Teresa Ledger Fernandez's claim here is pretty accurate, and it's quite simple. A provision in the recent government funding bill allows certain senators, mainly 8 Republicans, whose phone records were sought during the January 6th investigation, to sue the government for up to $500,000 each, plus legal fees, if their records were obtained without proper notice. This is not a guaranteed automatic $500,000 payout or plus, but rather a potential legal damages claim. The measure, added as part of a shutdown ending deal, retroactively restricts access to lawmakers' phones' data, and it's been widely criticized as self-serving, even by some Republicans. It effectively gives those senators a legal avenue for compensation, but it does not authorize direct government payments. So, while lawmakers are quietly writing themselves checks, Trump is busy staging distractions made of, I kid you not, spray-painted plywood and his ego.
You can't imitate gold, real gold. There's no paint that imitates
So
gold.
these aren't like from Home Depot or something?
No, this is not Home Depot stuff.
No,
This is-
not stuff you buy.
This is not Home Depot.
Trump says the ballroom's all real gold. It's not. It's Home Depot paint. And it's pretending to be this luxury finish kind of money that you actually just find in the clearance section aisle next to the faucets. I know this because I am currently remodeling my bathroom. And of course, the man points at fake molding like he's giving a tour of Versailles. But it looks more like a Spirit Halloween version of a casino lobby that you could find in New Jersey. You can practically smell the glue behind the molding, and the timing, perfect. Perfect as always. Every time the walls start to close in, Epstein resurfaces. The government grinds to a halt. 40 million in American taxpayer dollars are quietly vanishing into the pockets of Argentina's Javier Milei, and Trump suddenly discovers a shiny distraction. Look at this gold ballroom! Because nothing makes people forget about corruption and chaos like cheap, bad lighting. It's classic Trump misdirection. Point to something shiny while everything else catches fire. He's not showing you gold, he's showing you the performance of gold. Just like he's been performing success, power, and competence his entire life. The ballroom isn't opulence, it's evidence. evidence that he's still running the same old con. Cover up the bankruptcy with branding, paint, gold plywood, call it marble, sell the illusion until somebody believes it. It's so deeply representative of everything Trump stands for. It's tacky, it's dated, it's hollow. The only thing holding it together is the hope that no one looks too closely at the seams. And speaking of hollow, let's look at the guy he picked to help him run how the country moves.
The president's also talked about penalizing some of these air traffic controllers who took sick time. So can you talk about what that plan would look like there?
Well, my concern is for those air traffic controllers who, before they missed a paycheck and we were in the shutdown, they decided on a continual basis not to show up for work. They don't know how long the shutdown was going to be. They hadn't missed a pay period, and they didn't come to work. I'm concerned about those controllers. I'm concerned about their dedication. I'm concerned about their patriotism. And so we haven't made a decision, but we are going to look at those controllers who continually made the decision not to show up for work. And again, we have to look at the data. I would just tell you, I'm trying to bring more air traffic controllers in. I'm not trying to take air traffic controllers out. But if we have controllers who systemically weren't doing their job, we will take action. Yes?
Okay, that was Sean Duffy, threatening action against air traffic controllers who missed work during the shutdown. He's questioning their patriotism, which is so nuts considering these are the people who literally kept planes from crashing while working unpaid because Congress couldn't do their jobs, because if they did, they might maybe risk giving Americans affordable health care. The thing about federal funding in this country, the money to keep people alive, is that money always exists. It's never that we can't afford it. It's that the people in charge chose not to spend it. The shutdown wasn't about empty accounts. It was really supposed to be about leverage for the Democrats, but they failed. But Duffy wasn't defending taxpayers or his Republican peers. He was bullying exhausted, irreplaceable, strung out workforce for a crisis politicians like him created. And my favorite fact about Sean Duffy that we don't talk about nearly enough is that he was literally on The Real World.
As we're sitting on the boat, I break out my video camera and I'm filming everybody in our group and hanging out. And all of a sudden I see Montana like looking at me like she's gonna unzip her vest and show me her boobies.
Breakfast in bed.
Good for young Elker. But I want to get the good sexual stuff. What's going on? Look at these. I had half a little glass of beer and a little wine.
Did you at any time over the course of the weekend, while in the presence or caring for children, drink alcohol?
Yeah.
Or the taste one, you drank in front of the...
And it makes sense when you think about how Trump built his cabinet. With the same logic he would use to cast a reality show. Let's pick the loudest personalities, let's prioritize loyalty over skill, and let's fire anyone who starts acting smarter than the host. His government is built in such a way that is so deeply disconnected from reality. And Sean Duffy is one of those people, a guy who tumbled forward from literally the real world Boston to the Secretary of Transportation. It's the bad spinoff no one asked for. And let's be honest, a woman could never pull a Sean Duffy. No woman could go from the real world Boston to the Secretary of Transportation and be taken seriously. She would be mocked. She'd be called unserious. She'd be called a lightweight, dragged for her past actions in videos like the one we just saw, and ran off as a distraction. Meanwhile, Duffy gets to rebrand his MTV years as relatable, media savvy. That's the double standard baked into this whole machine. Men get to fail upward. Women have to prove their expertise twice over just to get in the room. This is the same guy who once said there were good things that came out of the Charleston church massacre, where 9 Black people were murdered in cold blood. Imagine being so disconnected from reality that you treat a hate crime like a teachable moment for white politicians. Then, to stay on brand, he accused Black members of Congress of not caring about abortion. Just racist asshole behavior, period. PolitiFacts basically made a side hustle out of debunking all of his bullshit. That's the trick with these guys like him. They say it fast, they say it confident, and they count on people being too exhausted to check. And while he's busy ranting about the swamp, ProPublica caught him unloading up to $600,000 in stocks right before Trump's big tariff announcement. Funny how that works out. If that's not insider knowledge, it's just the luckiest timing in human history, which it's not. Then came his big boy job as transportation secretary, where he called New York's subway a shithole. and threatened to pull federal funds unless the city caved to his objectives. Meanwhile, he quietly rerouted his wife's flight away from an airport he swore was safe. It's all just so painfully predictable. Duffy is a performer. He talks about forgotten American workers while cashing in on their frustration. And it's not just him. Trump's world is full of guys dropping to their knees in the name of patriotism.
All of that, I want to get your response to the breaking news we've been following this hour that the House Oversight Committee has just released emails showing that Jeffrey Epstein mentioned Donald Trump by name multiple times in various private correspondence with Ghislaine Maxwell and the author Michael Wolff. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, good morning, Wolf. Great to be with you again. I think that we all know President Trump has been the most investigated person probably in the world over the last several years. And, of course, the information that was released this morning by the Democrats, for one, I would say, it shows up on the day that we're going to open up the government again in the House. We're voting this afternoon. But also, the Oversight Committee, led by the Republican Chairman James Comer, is always going to be looking at the facts and whatever the facts lead. And again, as I say, President Trump has been the most investigated president that we probably will ever have. And so the fact that this information comes out today, I think is a bit ironic, but at the same time, any information that's released has to be taken seriously. And I know that the Oversight Committee will do that.
Rep. Stutzman went on CNN calling Trump the most investigated person probably in the world and claiming the new Epstein documents are just a distraction from the government reopening. That's the tell. Whether there's an inconvenient story, whenever there's an inconvenient story, Trump's allies start yelling distraction. It's like pulling a fire alarm in your own building. Trump's been investigated a lot because he's done a lot worth investigating. And that's what happens when you're Trump. And when you're pretending that Epstein release is some kind of media diversion from the government reopening, that's just lazy. The government reopened because Republicans don't give a fuck about their constituents' access to healthcare and because 8 Democrats caved. And that's a separate mess. What Stutzman's really doing here is trying to lump every legitimate scandal into one big conspiracy cloud so that way nothing sticks. It's like we talked about yesterday. Repetition, simple phrases for tiny brains, make those brains feel tickled. Don't make people think too hard. Just as Mussolini said in Italy, they were having record-breaking grain harvests in the late 1920s and 1930s. Mussolini launched what he called Battle of the Grain. It was his big national campaign to make Italy self-sufficient in wheat, part of his broader fascist push for economic autocracy. Self-reliance. The regime poured money into farmland, machinery, and propaganda, turning wheat into a symbol of national pride for Italians. And fascist progress. Behind the scenes, yields were mediocre. Food prices skyrocketed, and the production of other key crops like olives, grapes, fruits, vegetables plummeted because farmers were forced to grow wheat instead. Italy actually ended up importing more food overall, not less. But Mussolini didn't care. The point wasn't to feed people. It was to feed them the myth, to prove that the regime was so strong, efficient, and self-sufficient, even when everyone knew that it wasn't. That's why people reference it today. It's the textbook example of how authoritarians replace data with whatever is the narrative du jour. Mussolini didn't need real harvests. He needed the idea of success. As long as people kept hearing repetitively, record grains yielded, they stopped asking if the bread was getting smaller. Starting to sound familiar? It's the same strategy Trump uses when he says the economy is the best it's been in history or polls are fake. Replace measurable reality with confidence and watch people start believing the performance, especially with the repetition instead of the actual proof. Flood the zone with simple, repetitive nonsense over and over. So no, Epstein isn't a distraction. It's a separate, horrifying case that keeps intersecting with powerful men because power protects itself. If that makes the Trump world uncomfortable, that's not a plot. This is his proximity. So here we are, 8 senators writing themselves potential payouts for being investigated, Trump touring around fake gold while the country burns, Sean Duffy from the Real World Boston threatening air traffic controllers for missing work while they're strung out from a shutdown, his party cause, and congressmen calling documented evidence a distraction because facing reality is totally optional in Trump's America. This is the con. Flood the zone with chaos until people stop expecting better. Make corruption such a constant it becomes wallpaper. Paint the plywood gold then and dare anyone who call it what it is that They're so counting on you to just feel tired, to tune out, to accept this is just how things are. Don't zone it out. We cannot accept senators enriching their lives and cabinets functioning like reality show cast members, and then dismissing this all as distraction. The gold isn't real, the patriotism isn't real, the grain harvests were never real, but your ability to see through it, that's what they actually fear the most. So share this video, hit subscribe, let's get this message out there. They're counting on you to be too tired to pay attention. Don't give them that. And I'm Lauren P. across all social channels. Follow me for more. Go team.